Aloha, beautiful beings, and welcome to the final episode of season 1 of the Yoni Havana Podcast, where we explore consciousness, looking into how things work in the universe so we can enjoy life more and become more whole. This first season was a blast for me. I enjoyed numerous conversations with amazing people. Some have been on my wish list for years. I've learned a lot. I was inspired a lot. I was in awe a lot. And I hope you had the same experiences listening to the season. Season 2 is in the works. I have great guests lined up already, and I'm excited to launch it. I'm taking a break between seasons so I can rest, reflect, contemplate, and improve the show. I'm applying feedback from both the guests and the audience and using the silence between seasons to allow for the divine to speak to me on how I can improve. I've taken some time to reflect on the first season, and in this episode, I'd like to share one main takeaway from each episode. All right, so let's go. We'll start with episode 1 with Holistic Hilda, who was also my podcasting coach before I launched the show, helped me figure out the description for the show, how I'm going to launch it, how I'm going to focus on it, how I'm going to find guests, what's going to be a lot of the structure. And so she was a great guiding force with helping me get this off the ground. And I'm very grateful to Hilda. And so let's go to the one thing that stood out as the main takeaway from, there were so many, but the main takeaway from the conversation was, she said, love is a nutrient. And to me, that one resonated deeply. It hit home because love is a nutrient. When you think about it, nutrition comes from obvious sources such as the sun, water, food, but love was not on my radar. I know it, but it wasn't something that I think of it. You know, it's just not wasn't in my consciousness. And then it was huge to think about how much we're nourished by love. Hilda was talking about how when we give love, we can even receive more love. And I know this to be true from my experiences of healing meditations, in particular in Dr. Joe Dispenza's retreats. And as Dr. Joe teaches, one builds up the love within them, especially in their hearts, in order to be able to give love to another being. And so while they're building up the love inside them, that nourishes them and that brings more love and coherence and healing to oneself. And though, and it happens, they are getting into the love states, to the gratitude, love, giving state, compassionate state. And by being in that state, by being that frequency, it attracts more love. So that really resonated super deeply. And I'm thinking about how love is a nutrient in terms of making food. You can think about an elder or perhaps a parent making food for their kids or whomever, especially when they really care about them and they're in the moment and perhaps not stressed about the past or the future. And so they put so much love into that meal that comes with the food. There's energy going into that. And I like to think sometimes of eating out and perhaps the chef or the sous chef or some other cooks in the kitchen are having a bad day or they're kind of tired of their job and there's perhaps some negative energy of frustration and anger and such, or resentment with the boss or somebody else going into that food. So yeah, love is a nutrient. That one was huge. Going into episode 2 with Shayla Sananda. When I asked Shayla in the beginning of the episode to tell the audience about who she is, she corrected me and she said, "Who am I? Good question. I can tell you about what I do." And that hit home to me as I got her reaction, because asking somebody who they are, that's it's not really a fair question because we're such expansive beings. It's hard to articulate in words what we are. And so, Shayla opened my mind and heart to be more specific in asking the questions about what are people doing, what they're passionate about, what are they promoting in this life. So yeah, that was big in terms of being more cautious and being more respectful about how big of beings we are in that way. We are expensive and we are not defined a lot of times by even by words. So that was that with episode 2 with Wachila Sananda. Episode 3 with Mike Bledsoe. Mike taught me in that episode, and he said that a belief equals imagination. So that one was deep in terms of thinking of beliefs as just ideas that are ingrained in our minds, where they're different than faith, which is what I describe as a deep intuition about our connection to source or to the nature of the universe. And so beliefs are often treated as facts by the mind, but they're just an imagination, which a lot of times comes from another source, repeating it over and over again to us, whether it's going to be our parents or media or teachers, especially as kids, where we constantly in the slower brain waves and we keep recording it and we don't know how to discern the world yet. And we keep taking those beliefs as facts. And so that was a really good lesson in terms of when someone believes in someone, they think that idea is true. Whether rather than I highly now, especially as somebody who went on the path from being an atheist to being agnostic to being spiritual, let's call it, or connected and have a strong connection to the source of creation, into how I was so much in the belief that nothing else exists, YOLO. And I had all kinds of beliefs that I took very seriously. And so that one about how much they're just ideas. We're just imagine that is true. Episode 4 with Michael Tierno. Michael said, self-awareness equals presence. So self-awareness, when one is aware, self-aware, they become more present, which then leads to more peace. So thinking about that, it's simple, beautiful, and profound to think that all we need to do is cultivate self-awareness. And when we do that constantly, we're more in the present moment, not distracted by the past or future. And then we become free of worries. So yes, we may be anxious sometimes in the present moment if we're under threat or in another stressful situation. But that's really to come and learn something from that lesson. Otherwise, a lot of the time, being in the present moment will not be very anxiety producing unless we're in the middle of war, unless we're really in a very stressful survival mode situation constantly. Hopefully, a lot of humans, and I know that may not be the case, but can find more peace and safety in that way. They can focus on the present moment of thinking of what they want to do with that and enjoy that gift that is the present moment, and then perhaps go in the flow that will take them more into their mission, their divine alignment, and what feels good in the fact that they chose to be here now. And so also cultivating self-awareness is what Joshua J. Holland in episode 17 said is the key pillar of what he praises for the pillars for thriving in life. So that's his number one pillar too. And so moving on to episode 5 with Matt Kaufman, Matt said, relationships in and of themselves are a ceremony. They can be harder than going into a ceremony. And what Matt was referring to was plant medicine ceremonies. And it resonated with me deeply that he was right, because medicine ceremonies, and I have the experience, I've done ayahuasca, I've done different plant medicine ceremonies, they can be extremely uncomfortable for a few hours. But relationships go on and on for a week sometimes, hopefully months and years and so forth. And so those prolonged efforts in being uncomfortable as one's shadows are being illuminated, projected on the other, and reflected back, that's perhaps the most important aspect of relationships, is to learn about ourselves, face what needs to be improved upon, and evolve to heal ourselves and be of service to the world, which is a part of us in that oneness. And so episode 6 with Thaddeus Owen, Thaddeus shared a story about how his brand, Primal Hacker, lost many followers in the years of 2020 and 2021 when he was speaking about spiritual things rather than biohacking and speaking his truth into what was going on in the world from his perspective. Now, what was interesting, he said a couple of years later, one guy joined him on a spiritual retreat and told him that he stopped following him then, but later he awakened spiritually in this big awakening wave that we're experiencing in the moment. And he came back to learn this new stuff that Thaddeus was into and teaching. And what was illuminating that story is that the power of sticking to our truth and values and the calling that we have in the moment, even though that means that some things are going to be falling apart in the face of doubt, uncertainty, and adversity, it's important that we stick to our calling. It's important that we stick to what we deem most important in the moment. And yeah, that took I bet a bunch of ego resolution in that way. With he called it like shooting his foot in shooting his foot by letting the brand really dissipate in a lot of ways. His brand is still going on. He still teaches some biohacking, but it really shifted into teaching spirituality and what he calls neo shamanism these days. So that was big. And to hear how people are now adapting and over time adapting and wanting that he was ahead of the curve, wanting to get more of that. So kudos to him for listening to the whispers and taking the action. From episode 7 with Coach Tomorrow, Coach Tomorrow shared why she likes to use the word expanding rather than growing, and desire rather than want, and how much more meaningful and precise these words are in what they're trying to describe and achieve, and also the sound, frequency, and signature of these words. And so both of those words resonated with me immediately, and I've used them ever since. And it seems to have made a difference in what I give out and receive from the universe by using expanding rather than growing. When I talk about, let's call it spiritual growth or spiritual expansion, right? And then what I desire in life rather than want. And she said, like, desire sounds more sexy rather than, oh, I want this. It is a desire. So, anyways, those words, I've incorporated them and I like them and they seem to make a difference. She talks about frequency a lot. And it's perhaps, when you're listening to this, everything in the universe is energy and frequency. And so sound has a frequency. And so those words carry, at least seem to carry, better results and more harmony and more life enhancing qualities than those other words. Episode 8 with Philip von Holzendorf, Failing. Philip said, darkness cannot fight light. It's impossible. He gave the example of a dark room. You light a candle in it, and no matter what, that light will shine. You will see some light in the corners of the room, around it. The darkness cannot contain that light. And so the analogy was to the world at large, where dark forces cannot fight light. Light is simply stronger in that way than darkness. It illuminates everything near it. And so that gave me hope and strength about the state of the world and where we're going, considering the times that we're now, and it's September 2023 when I'm recording this episode and releasing it. And so it reminded me how important it is, at least in this subjective reality, to cultivate more light and share it with the world. And from episode 9 with Zach Lowenstein, at the end of the episode, Zach said, magic is real. He said, you can get anything you want. Dream as big as you can. You can live any life you want. You just have to decide it and then align your actions with it. And he added to say that his current job is an answered prayer. He said that it took 2 years for that to manifest since he decided and had a conversation with a friend about what would be his ideal situation. And it happened to him. And I'm 100% with this message. It's so powerful and so true. And a lot of people talk about manifesting these days, and a lot of the times they're disappointed with their lack of results or the speed of things are shaping up for them. And my 2 cents is that it takes time to train oneself to create magic in their life. And the more evolved we become and more skilled at anything, the faster we see the results. And that will be the faster transformation will happen to one as they're applying those rules of the universe, of laws of attraction, of laws of manifestation in that way, of gratitude, how gratitude really brings that state in which attracts more, and it's in a more expensive state than other contracted states. And so being grateful, and that's the formula for something as if it's already happened. And so we're going to touch on that as I also talk about the key takeaway from episode 15 with Crew von Holzendorf feeling. And so there's a little bit of a subtlety in there, but we'll get to that in a couple moments. So episode 10 with Seth Balin. Seth said, We're physiologically adapted to eating a diet of primarily fruit. All human beings are inherently frugivores. Teeth, digestive tracts, our senses. What he said, and along with seeing a visual chart of frugivores in the wild, hit home to me that we're built like frugivores. Perhaps, yes, we're built to eat mostly fruits. And we think about Adam and Eve too. I mean, they were perhaps in the Garden of Eden eating a bunch of fruit until they ate the forbidden apple, and so forth, and kept descending and descending more and more into eating meat. Now, I adapted my diet quite a bit to eat more fruit and vegetables um, quite organically before having the conversation with him. That's why I wanted to have a conversation with him to hear more. Coming from a very animal base, I was eating animal products in meat at least once a day. And now, after doing my research, both theoretical and experiential, and getting a lot of the signs, something clicked in my consciousness that I don't need to be eating as much meat. Now, I perhaps I want to eat meat in the future. At the moment, I eat meat not every day, and when I do, it's less, and I feel very nourished and energized. Not giving this as any advice at the moment. I highly suggest that everybody will go on their own pace with everything. And so there's a lot of ethical questions, a lot of so many things, ethical questions of eating even plants. Once we pick even fruit from the trees, in some ways they're disconnected from their life source. Some people eat only fruit that fall from trees in say in Hawaii and such. So that's not advice for anybody into how to eat. It's just my experience and how I've been evolving in that way, and what was resonating with me. So perhaps that seed will be planted in you, and that will make more sense for you and bring you more joy in life and more wholeness. It has to me. It had to me. So that's my takeaway there. Now, episode 11 was a Q&A episode I did where I described my first and so far only experience with Kambo, aka frog medicine, which is a non-psychoactive super cleanse. And that was an amazing experience that yielded amazing results, especially on a physical level, as I had an ongoing sinus infection. And I highly recommend listening to episode 5 and episode 12 if you are curious about Kambo, because there's a lot of information from Matt Kaufman, a practitioner, and Todd Shipman, a practitioner. And so episode 12 with Todd Shipman, Todd shared the amazing success he had with helping people break addictions with Kambo. And so he told a story of a 16-year heroin addict who broke his addiction very quickly with the help of Kambo. And that story resonated deeply with me. That's huge success for breaking addictions. We know that breaking addictions are not easy, especially for heroin addicts of so long. And he also said that he and his wife had 100% success with helping people break from addictions. And they conducted over 2,600 Kambo ceremonies at a time. And so the proof is in the pudding to me. Ever since, when I hear of addictions and I hear anything related to that, I recommend people explore Kambo as a solution. Episode 13 with Ian Mitchell. Ian shared how he intentionally lowered his level of consciousness by eating meat after being a vegetarian for 28 years. He described his earthly experience as quite ungrounded, where he wasn't sure where he was in space and time. In a way, he wasn't connected to his body, sometimes couldn't find his body, didn't really know that that's his. There was a profound and very similar story that I read in Dr. David Hawkins' books, the one who came up with the map of consciousness. And while I'm looking to embody a higher level of consciousness, it was illuminating that at some point, some people need to balance and lower the level of consciousness in order to be of service here on Earth. So that was a big lesson for me to hear that there is such a thing. Still quite in the infancy of getting more and more light, being able to hold more light, and being able to cultivate a higher level of consciousness. So really, really amazing lesson to me. Episode 14 with Kevin Orris. He said in regards to romantic relationships that sleeping apart even one night a week is extremely healthy. And he quoted Osho, who said, let there be space in your togetherness. And this one was a great lesson for me too, because sometimes I feel like I want to be alone to recharge, and I'm kind of in some ways looking to get away uh, for more than a few hours, just to kind of recharge my energy and be with myself. And based on a human design, which is uh, philosophy or practice or teaching about types of people and how they operate based on astrology, which I was not into and not believing in at all. And I, after having a couple of sessions with different practitioners, saw that it has a lot of value in that. I'm considered to be a manifesting generator type who can benefit from sleeping apart sometimes, and I've taken on that advice, and it has been great. And while counterintuitive to mainstream culture, I feel like to me and my wife, it has brought us closer, and it's been super healthy to spend, for me to spend sometimes sleeping a night in another bed, in another room. It's bringing us closer. So that was a great teaching from Kevin. And so episode 15 with Crew von Hotzerdorf feeling, Crew said on manifesting abundance to focus on this simple thing. And that is just say and feel, I have everything I need, instead of trying to manifest these big dreams that are currently far reaching. And she talked about how people nowadays, including myself until that point, were trying to manifest abundance in a way that doesn't work well, because being grateful, for example, for millions of dollars or something along those lines that is out there does send the universe a message that the person is feeling lack. And as they're tricking themselves to feel this feeling that they have millions, for example, while the feeling is the key, a lot of people focus on saying the mantras and such, where the feeling is not completely there. And then the feeling of lack of saying like, oh, I'm feeling like I have whatever, a big house on the beach. Um, there's a feeling that it says like, but I don't. And so I changed my mantra really to I have everything I need, which helps me with being more content in my everyday life. And apparently, as she explained it, will bring more and more abundance because I just feel that I have everything I need. So everything else will line itself up. Episode 16 with Kyle Anchor. Kyle talked about how we can solve the world's problems by helping adult boys become men. And he was talking about not teenage boys. He was talking about how the world is run by immature men. These are just boys that have never matured. They've never grown up. They've never gone through rites of passage. And that resonated with me deeply because that's one of my main focuses in the world. I co-founded and I run a men's community called Men of Integrity, where masculine men go through a rite of passage in our retreats and then join our community to continually evolve to be the best version of themselves in order to find meaning and feel more whole and be of service to the world. And I think it's quite apparent that, and this is the talk about patriarchy and crushing the patriarchy and toxic masculinity. A lot of the men that run the world today, or at least feel like they do, and in some ways they do, are such immature boys, adult boys that have done and brought so much pain and incoherence to our living, that this, as Kyle sees it, will be the solution to solving the world's problem, helping boys transition to become men. And that's a big one. I think that is a great strategy. We'll see if that's the only thing, but I think that is one of the main key things. And so episode 17 with Joshua J. Holland. Joshua has a quote that he shared, and he said, this is his thing. If you want to change your body and mind, you must change what is you do most of the time. Now, that one is simple and true. And Joshua has a podcast called Simply Walk the Talk. And while it's simple, we know that it can be difficult, but the simplicity, the focus, and the actions are really what moves the needle for people to transform their state of being. So keeping that mantra is that changing what we do most of the time, if one wants to transform, that's the key. All right, so that was a wrap of my main takeaways from season 1. I hope you enjoyed these little tidbits. These are memorable lessons that got ingrained in my state of being. which are helping me evolve into the next best version of myself. And I'm excited to report to myself and to you that I do enjoy life more and feel more whole as a result of starting this podcast. And so it confirmed my conviction of continuing on this path. Now, I promise to myself and to you to deliver on an even better, more inspirational, and more effective season in the next season, season 2. I look forward to hearing your comments, feedback, and stories of transformation as a result of planting seeds in you, to awaken you, to keep evolving. And I thank you so much for listening, for the kind messages, for the support. I love you all. Be well. A big aho. Take care. See you in the next season. Attention all masculine men and those who cherish them in their lives. Discover Men of Integrity, the game-changing community I'm proud to be a part of. Men of Integrity is a vibrant community and brotherhood I co-founded to ignite the divine masculinity within men. Every spiritual path is honored here, recognizing the dynamic dance of both masculine and feminine energies within. At Men of Integrity, our mission is to help men break free from societal molds and rediscover the path to inner strength, emotional authenticity, and genuine fulfillment. But this is more than just breaking free from norms. We're shattering the shackles that tie success to wealth, that restrict men to stoic providers, and confine them to rigid male identities. Instead, we encourage men to embrace values like kindness, care, and wisdom as the true indicators of success. The heart of our work? Immersive retreats that amplify these revelations coupled with unwavering ongoing support. The results? Relationships bathed in a newfound light, a reignited passion for your work, financial harmony, and a love affair with life that knows no bounds. Welcome to the evolution you've been yearning for. Visit our website, moi.community, to read heartfelt testimonials from our members, learn about our vibrant community and transformative retreats, and secure a spot for a life-changing experience that promises to expand your horizons. Aho!